This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm delighted to be joined by former GB star Solomon Dacres here. I was going to say over Zoom because I've been used to doing so many Zoom interviews recently, but here in Birmingham we're live, yes indeed. So how are you?
I'm all good, man, all good.
It's good to hear. Now obviously you've made the announcement, you've teamed up with S-Jam Boxing, you've turned over as a pro, just kind of waiting for dates, and there's a lot going on with promotional status and what have you, but before we get into all that, as this is your first time doing if not a live interview, then certainly a live interview since the announcement of your turnover from amateur to pro, take me back to that, just kind of a decision to do so just a matter of a few weeks ago.
Yeah, well, the decision was basically, with everything being postponed, Olympic-wise, qualification postponed, not knowing whether I'd get the first qualifier or have the chance, it was time to turn over. You know, I was going to turn over this year anyway, in terms of my boxing career. Just things with the Olympics, you know, postponed and that, he was just ready to turn over now.
Was it a difficult decision to make? Because I know for a lot of boxers coming through, especially when we're in the position you was in, the Olympics is the kind of the holy grail.
Yeah, it wasn't because the goal was to turn over anyway, and in that time frame it was a little bit of a waiting for the Olympics, but I was happy to turn over, you know. No, I'm not going to regret it now. I'm going to just make my moves now.
So start off with your link up with S-Jam Boxing, Sam Jones, who's become kind of a popular figure almost across the boxing world. What made you team up with Sam?
Yeah, well, Sam, he'd been messaging me for a while before I was turning over. You know, started talking to me, got a little bit of a relationship with me sort of thing, and I got to know him, and he's doing good business with his fighters. You know, he's got Joe, this big fight now, and Joyce's career, he's fought some good top names, and, you know, and he's doing a good job. So after talking to him for a bit, it wasn't a quick decision. You know, we built a little relationship, and then when the time was right, we teamed up together, and now we're going to move forward and hopefully do great things.
What plan has he put in place for yourself, or has he spoken to you about? Because for as excited as you may be to make a professional debut, it's also potentially a very tough time to be thinking about it because of COVID restrictions and the amount of shows that we have at the minute. I imagine it can be difficult to get out, but what has a plan that he's put in place for you been? Yeah,
well, we're going to working now to get a promotional deal signed. It'll be either this week or next week. We've got stuff on the table, so we're in a position where, even though it's a difficult time, we should be looking to get out my debut on a big TV broadcast. So hopefully we can get that out soon, start of the year, January time, and we should be looking to go from there.
Now, we've seen promoters come out saying that they want to try and make more evenly matched fights throughout this period whilst we are under these COVID restrictions. Given that you are getting ready for only your debut, are you anticipating that you may have to fight somebody who you wouldn't have thought you would have had to until maybe 5 or 6 fights into your career?
Maybe so, but to be honest, whoever I'll be fighting at that stage, I'll be ready from the start anyway. You know, sometimes you get a soft touch in your debut to look good, but I'm ready to go at, you know, whatever level they put me at. You know, I'm training all the time. I'm coming off the GB squad. You know, I'm not coming in to just beat journeymen. I'm coming in to beat top guys anyway. So whoever we get on the debut, we're going to do the same job anyway.
And obviously we're here in Birmingham. You've teamed up with Max McCracken, one of the more recognised trainers, if certainly not just in the Birmingham area, but across the UK. Talk about that decision. Yeah,
well, it was a decision where Max is, you know, he's training the Afai brothers who are doing great things. You know, Cal's Birmingham's only world champion ever. So for me to team up with Max, it was like, he's got that world-class calibre in Birmingham, and I'd have to move too far from home, you know, just drive to the gym, you know, 25 minutes away. And it was just a no-brainer, really, as a top trainer, so decided to team up with him.
Do you see any similarities between, obviously, the way you train with Max and the fact you worked with Rob, his brother, up in Sheffield previously?
Yeah, exactly that as well, you know. We've got a good relationship with Rob as well. So teaming up with Max, it was an easy transition, you know, because he can speak back and forth between the two, and it was just an easy transition.
Now, you've been sparring two guys ahead of a huge fight this coming weekend. You've sparred both Joyce and Daniel Dubois. Talk to me about the experiences with both of them. Start off with Daniel.
Yeah, well, it's just great sparring, really. You know, top level. He's a very strong fighter, as you know. Great power, and he's very technically sound. You know, he's got a great boxing ability. He's very strong, and the sparring is just only going to better me and get him prepared for the fight as well.
And then with Joyce, what's the biggest difference again, and with sparring him and the differences you've noticed?
Yeah, and then Joe again, you know, top level sparring. He's very strong And as we all know, he's got a great engine, man. He doesn't stop round 1 to 12. I've seen it in sparring. You have to be on your A game, you know, to keep him off you. And, you know, it's a hard night work for anybody. So it's going to be a great fight, I think.
Now, I'm sure you've been asked this many a time, but preview, break down the fight for me on Saturday night.
Well, you know, it's going to be one of those where Daniel's not a massively fast starter. So he'll establish a jab. He's got a very hard jab, solid jab. So he'll get that going, but Joe will definitely force the pace. So it's about Joe, I think, bringing Daniel out of his comfort zone sort of thing. But with that, you know, Daniel can bang. So doing that, you don't want to rush anything, because if he catches a few clean ones, it's going to change the, you know, the tempo of the fight. And those shots, someone's going to get tested. Their chins are getting tested, definitely.
Who do you think wins?
I don't know. I'm leaning towards, if Joe can, you know, avoid the big shots, I think he can take it away in the later rounds. But I'm still sitting on the fence.
Obviously, with your GB experience, I know you've shared some rounds previously with Anthony Joshua. Talk about that experience sparring with AJ, unified world heavyweight champion.
Yeah, that's been, you know, quality experience, you know, for me, going to boxing tournaments for GB and things that Joshua's been through. You know, years ago, he's done it at the highest level, got Olympic gold. And then I'm sparring with him as a world champion. You know, it's preparing me for, you know, all the different tournaments and that I was going to, and just constantly improving and leveling up all the time, and it's just allowed me to keep improving and set myself a standard, really.
AJ getting ready for his own bout with Aj-Pulev on December 12th. Again, just give me a preview for that one, Solly.
Yeah, Pulev he might not be that well known, you know, to the public, but he's a top quality guy. I think he's only lost to Klitschko, who's, you know, obviously was reigning champion for, you know, 10 plus years. So it's going to be a tricky fight, but I think he's got that seasoned, you know, style about him now as a champion, where he'll win. I think he'll get him out of there as well, to be honest.
And the final thing I just want to touch on, there's a huge fight, unfortunately not at your weight, but a huge fight that was announced last week between Canelo and Callum Smith. Again, just your thoughts on it, Solomon?
Yeah, that's a great fight, and I think Smith can give Canelo problems. You know, he's big at the weight, and he's got a bit of a dig about him. You know, and he won't go down easy, and that'll be a great matchup. You know, don't underestimate Smith, because, you know, he's got a real chance in that fight, I think.
Solomon, just before we wrap up, I know we have a mutual friend in Ben Whittaker, who's still currently on the GB setup. But I know Ben well, as I know you do. What's he like behind the scenes with GB?
Behind the scenes, Ben, you know, he's a bit of a character. You know, he's well, I can't even say, man. He's a character. There's not too much you want to say on the camera, really. You know what happens, you know. But he's a funny guy, man. He's one of my best mates on the GB squad, and, you know, me and him together, you know, it's been a good crack on GB, to be honest. You know, we've been all around the world together, and, you know, it'd be boring times without each other sometimes. You know, we're in Kazakhstan, and that, you know, we've got a room to ourselves in the middle of nowhere. You know, we keep each other entertained, and yeah, he's a good character, man. He's a good geezer. You
got any stories you can share for us?
Oh man, I don't think there's anything worth sharing on the camera. You know, I have to ask him permission, but yeah, man, he's a character. Solomon, thank you. No, nice one, man.